I sat alone in our room, staring into the firelit hearth. The door creaked open behind me, her soft footsteps crossing the threshold. She rounded my chair and stopped in front of me, a scroll full of abandoned notes clutched in her hand. The research I'd been secretly compiling over the last several days. Facts, which I had been too much a coward to speak aloud. I looked up at her. She knew. The crinkled parchment had only confirmed what her heart had already been telling her, that her magic had been waning, each spell dimmed as the mark burrowed deeper, that with every attempt it fed, consumed, and demanded more. The notes merely confirmed her suspicions. Her fingers lifted to her chest, gingerly touching the spot where the mark was fading. A silent question in her eyes. I didn't look away. I nodded. She flinched as though she expected a different answer. I remained seated in the armchair, the light casting sharp shadows across the room. I had been waiting for this moment. I sat quiet, resigned. It was confirmation enough. She stepped closer, every motion heavy with the weight of what she was losing. Her power, her place in this world, her newfound purpose. She knelt at my side, one trembling hand resting on my thigh. I confessed then. The words poured from me. My suspicions, the hypothesis turned to theory, and finally confirmed via research. I had dreaded its portrayal. The obscurus, drawn to her dormant magic, sought her out for it. That it had been burrowing, leeching, consuming her from within. She listened to every word without interrupting. I told her it would not stop. That when her magic was gone, it would begin to devour the rest of her until nothing remained. Her hand retreated from me as though burnt. I could hear the fear in her breath, the deep, sharp inhale. I told her there was a way, a ritual. It was possible, that I could tear it from her, but not without cost. I watched the realization wash over her. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. Her body told me everything, fear, grief, fury. She stood rigid at first, frozen in place by the weight of everything she had just been forced to carry. The scroll crumpled into her fine, delicate fist. Then, movement. A sudden, sharp gesture as she hurled it into the fire. Parchment flared, then hissed, devoured instantly. She pressed her hands to her face and dragged them down slowly as though trying to strip away the truth that clung to her skin. Her chest heaved. Her shoulders drew tight as a bowstring. I could feel it. What was left of it. Her magic sparking just under the surface, unstable and wild, not lashing out, but unraveling. She backed into the bookcase, then leaned against it, arms crossing tightly over her chest like she could somehow hold it all inside, prevent it from slipping away. Her gaze finally lifted to me. It wasn't accusatory, it wasn't even questioning. It was worse. It was grief over losing what she had finally found, what she had come to love the most. Finally I moved, carefully, slowly, as if approaching a wounded creature that might bolt at the slightest movement. She didn't look at me, not even as I reached her, not even as my hands hovered before settling gently on her arms. I had never been good at this, comfort, softness, but instinct overrode fear. I pulled her into my chest, and after a moment she let me. Her body was taut against mine, trembling, her breath hitching in uneven swells as she gripped the fabric of my robes. She didn't cry. She never cried. When her voice finally came, it was a faint whisper of sound. I thought I truly belonged in this world. The words struck like a blade, and I had no defense. I held her tighter, pressing my hand into her hair. "You did," I told her, and I meant it. Her silence afterward was heavier, Her gaze drifted past me beyond the firelight or the books or the quiet hum of magic and memories that lived faintly in the walls. It was as if she were trying to memorize it all. The scent of parchment and herbs, the warmth of the hearth, the bed we shared, the life she had built here, the life we had seemed to have built, unspoken and fragile though it was. When she looked back, I answered the only question she wouldn't ask. "You will survive," I said. "But the world you've come to know, the part of you that belongs to it, will no longer answer when called." I diverted my gaze then. I couldn't meet her eyes, not when they were so filled with pain, but I offered what I could. "It will not hurt," I said simply. "I won't allow it." Even as I said it, the words tasted of desperation and doubt. I swore then, to myself, silently, that whatever the ritual demanded, I would not let her suffer. The ritual chamber had once been a classroom, long unused, tucked away in one of the castle's older wings, but I had spent days transforming it into something else entirely. The stone walls had been scrubbed and enchanted clean, the floors scoured until they shone. The hearth had been extinguished, replaced by cold, sterile lighting that glowed evenly from floating orbs overhead. It felt nothing like the rest of the castle, no warmth, no flickering torches, no cluttered shelves or stacks of books, no laughter from children or amused chuckles from peers. Only bare surfaces, still air, and quiet, like a hospital or a tomb. 3 potions sat prepared on a silver tray beside the narrow cot, one to dull pain, one to ease anxiety, and one to calm the body into a relaxed, dreamlike state. I had brewed them myself, meticulous in their preparation, double-checking each ingredient, stirring until my hands ached. They would not stop what was coming, but they might soften its edge. Several protective arcane symbols had been drawn on the floor, etched through runes of separation, containment, and release. Each symbol had been scratched by my own hand, then retraced by wand. A single copper basin sat in the center, filled with water laced with silver, basilisk ash, and several herbs. Wormwood, angelica, and rue. Herbs that were known for their protective properties. It was through that basin the magic would be pulled, the obscurus exorcised and hopefully destroyed. We both stood in the doorway now, staring at the room as though it might turn enemy, as though it might devour us both. I had prepared everything I could. Still, nothing about it felt right. She was the first to move, quiet, deliberate, and seemingly fearless. She was always braver than she believed she could be. She sat on the cot, the white sheet creasing beneath her. I followed and stood by her side. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers curled into the fabric of her dress to keep them from shaking. I said nothing of it. Instead, I uncorked the first vial, pale blue, faintly glowing, and pressed it into her palm. "To prevent pain," I said. She brought it to her lips without question, tipped her head back, and drank. The second vial she recognized. The calming draught I had produced to her many times in her early months at the castle. Her throat moved as she swallowed, and I noted her shoulders immediately relaxed. Finally, the last potion, intended to ease her heart rate, slow her breath. It was darker and bitter smelling. I held it for her. She looked at me this time before taking it from my hand. There was a flicker in her eyes. Not fear, nothing akin to fear, more intimate. Trust. She drank. I knelt beside her, reaching for her hand. It was cold, but the trembles had ceased. She was ready to begin. I stood then and crossed to the basin, feeling the tension coil in my spine as I prepared the first incantation. The Obscurus was not a spirit, not precisely. It had no soul, but it possessed will, and it would resist extraction. The circle of runes at her feet began to stir with light, responding to the activation of the spell. A low hum filled the chamber. I turned back to her. I sat on a small stool at her side, watched her. She was already reclining, her eyes half-lidded, her body lax under the influence of the potions. I could see the outline of the mark through her shirt, no longer sharp, no longer angry or black. It had gone pale, sunken, almost completely embedded. I drew my wand. Umbra expiravit apparitium.